with potential war between America and Iran fast approaching, I better make this video now because tomorrow it could start and I can never make this video. So here are my predictions. First things first, I think it is possible that the Americans will target the Ayatollah and the president and stuff, but of course they targeted Maduro, but that was capturing him, not killing him. So that could be setting the precedent for this, but I don't think the Americans will take that leap. But there's nothing stopping them. As such, I'm going to leave that as a question mark. And regarding the initial strikes, I think those will be very successful. Of course, hopefully the Iranians have learned, if I, a civilian who is not Persian, can tell that the generals going to meetings during crisis is a bad idea, then I think the Iranians should have. So I think if they're smart, they'll decentralize. So instead of going to one big meeting during crisis, hopefully they've learned not to do that and keep separated and avoid congregating in large groups. That will make the big decisive strikes less likely. So hopefully they've also got better counterintelligence, so the Israelis will be, and the Americans, it will be harder to assassinate generals and stuff. So, of course, during the previous war, there was effective ground attacks against air defenses by forces already in Iran, and I think that won't happen. I think that may be attempted this time. I think there will be I think there are special forces stationed in the Caucasus and possibly Central Asia, and I think there will be special forces raids conducted from there, and I think they'll have moderate successes with minimum losses. And I think the initial strike, it will look like that Iran is doomed and stuff. I think there will be attacks against the air forces and stuff, but of course the thing isn't going to be just initial strikes. And unfortunately there is a good map by data source, but countries like Jordan and UAE have basically declared neutrality. So regarding bases in Jordan, I think it's no offensive strikes and stuff. I don't know. But America will probably use those for auxiliary purposes. So like, they will have like cargo aircraft landing in there and logistics stuff. I think they will do logistics from Jordan, but I don't think the other. So that means Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia may have said something saying they won't have American offensive strikes. So that's like a lot of limited countries. So like the amount of bases the Americans can use are limited. That means there's going to be more traffic at these bases, and that means, for example, there's less target things for Persia to target. So Persia, they could, for example, Bahrain, it's a very small country. That means air defenses can only have to defend one spot, but the missiles only need to penetrate one spot. So I think it will be a race between American interceptor missile stockpiles and Iranian ballistic missiles. And of course, there isn't a 100% interception rate. So I think there will be American losses on the ground. And I think just like in the 1991 war, how an American barracks got hit and killed a lot of American soldiers. I think there's a high possibility of something similar happening again, and American barracks getting hit. All tanker aircraft getting destroyed on the ground, so I think there will be American ground losses. Yeah. Also, in the initial strike, I don't think there will be any aircraft shot down, but I do think there will be aircraft shots down eventually, because like if you look at the Iraq in 1991, the Americans did suffer a lot of aircraft losses. Well, a bit of aircraft losses, not a lot, not like devastating amounts, but a sizable amount. So I think the Americans may lose 1 or 2 aircraft, and of course the Iranians have learnt from the previous war. As such, I think the so I think the initial strike will be less devastating. And pretty much, I think, just like Gallipoli, the previous Israeli strike against Iran has revealed their biggest weaknesses, and I think Iran will plug those. Of course, they could be hiding 1 or 2 tricks under their sleeves. There could have been 1 or 2 things they didn't do last time, which they can do now, but Iran may have also discovered those shortcomings. So yeah. I think the American and Israeli expectation is they hit the IRGC, they hit like the grip police or whatever they're called, and they hit like certain targets, and then they attack the military and all that stuff. And then there's going to be like civilian uprising and stuff, but the problem with that is it's going to be a state of war, which means that any attempt to overthrow the government by the populace will be met like a military force, which means the protesters will be massacred or at best mass interned. So I think pretty much the regime can ultimately be brought down by internal elements. There won't be like the stereotypical view of a revolution where like the people rise up against the government and overthrow. I don't think that will happen, because again, it's during a war. That means martial law, and that means the military, who don't have to face up an invading force, can put full attention on those trying to overthrow the government. So that's why I don't think that works. As such, I don't think the regime will be overthrown. I think it will stay intact and survive. Of course, it will be heavily damaged because a lot of the leadership will be killed. A lot of infrastructure will be destroyed, but the Americans, I think, will take a lot of losses. Israel will also take a lot of losses. For example, the Gerald Ford, or whatever, the USS Ford, isn't apparently it's not moving towards right. It's moving towards Israel, so its missiles can intercept incoming ballistic missiles. And since the previous war, Iran would have produced hundreds of missiles, new missiles, and of course, last time they didn't use their best stock, so there will be quite a few new missiles, and they'll be better than the previous ones and be more successful. Of course, according to some mainstream media, Iran lost a lot of its launches last time, but the videos are pretty clear that it was decoys. A lot of those things hit were decoys, actually. So I'm starting to get the hiccups, or actually, I'll keep going because, as I said before, this could be the last chance. So I think ultimately, do I think any American ships will be sunk? I think one might be hit, but the Americans have good damage control. Of course, people are saying America's aircraft carriers are going to get sunk, but even if they do get hit, it will be like the USS Force. So ultimately, my prediction is it will be in that nothing ever happens. So nothing will happen, the regime will stay in charge, and it will be like it never happened. Except a few thousand people died, and that is all.